Rolfman Tech Tips here. We're back, and I'm very excited to introduce you to my new coworker, Naeem. We're in boot camp together, and Naeem, you're a certified Scrum Master, so I was hoping you can educate me, educate my audience. What is Scrum?
Hey Matt, thank you for having me on. Scrum is a methodology that's used for software development. It's used a lot by private corporations for software development, and it started to make its way into the government fold as well. A lot of government agencies are starting to pick up on Scrum as well. They find it to be a lot better than some other methodologies that are out there that have been used for quite a long time. So it's a new thing for a lot more so on the government side, but private sector has been using it for quite a while now. But Scrum is basically an iterative process of software development that involves different key people, stakeholders that you have, primarily your product owner, who's usually would be your customer, and that's someone that you're going to be dealing with, who's going to be the representative for the customer that you're going to be talking to. They're going to be owning the product, the deliverable that's going to be taking place. And that's a very important person to have in identifying that individual that you're going to be working with, because they need to be involved throughout the process. So that's always, I always tell people, if you're going to be doing Scrum, make sure you identify a very good product owner that you can work with, because they need to be hands-on. They have to know what's going on, because Scrum moves at a very fast pace, because you're developing in between it can be either 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 week cycles, depending on what agreement you come to with your customer. So that's a very important part to have.
All right, so let's take a step back for a second. So
Sure.
when a person or an organization is building software, so the company we work with, Acumen Solutions, they build software for commercial or government customers. They're going to use the Scrum methodology when they're building this software.
Well, now at Acumen, remember, we use an iteration. We use our own methodology called Drive. But say we were at another company that wanted to use purely Scrum, yeah, they will use this methodology. They'll give an overview to their client, identify, as I said, the product owner, and then they'll sit down and have kind of like a requirements gathering, or in Scrum it's called, in Agile terms also, create user stories of what they would like to accomplish, what needs to be done, what they want, what features that they want developed in this software and that particular release for the application that they're developing. So that's a very important part, having those user stories, having them identified. And then what you do once you gather those user stories is rank them, put a weight on them, depending on what's the most important, what needs to go first. So then you plan your sprints out, so with your team.
Time out. Got to stop you there.
Mm-hmm.
Sprint. When I think of sprint, I think of going outside and running that 40-yard dash. What do you mean by sprint?
Well, sprint is where you gather up your user stories. So say we have, let's just say we have 20 user stories that we've gathered from the client.
Okay, so a user story is someone that's going to be using the software. They're telling a story.
The user story is defining the function that you want to take place, whether a function within the application or what the application should do. So you can have that, the application will complete this task. If you push this button, this result will happen, that kind of thing. Or kind of a business process rules too as well. So like that, this user should not be able to access a certain feature, or they should be able to. So you want to build that functionality in to the development. So, but yeah, I mean, in a way, like you said, instead of a 40-yard dash, it can sometimes feel like that. I mean, because especially if you're going at 2 week cycles, because everyone has to be involved in keeping track of their development. They're part of the process. So I mean, you have the developers who are developing, you have your testers writing their test scripts and performing tests as right when the developers are pushing that code into the test environment. And then once that sprint is over, you present it in a sprint review to the client for them to review, kind of like a user acceptance testing, or just review some of the stuff that you've done. And then depending on your client, you can either push that software right away to the production environment, or sometimes some companies wait they might push after every other sprint or every third sprint. It just depends what you work out with your product owner. And then after that sprint review, you kind of have what they call a sprint retrospective, which is more of a lessons learned meeting that you hold internally with your team to see what went well, what can be worked on, what we can improve, those kind of things.
Okay, so instead of the 40-yard dash, the sprint's like a 2-week development cycle, gathering user stories. It's a part of the Scrum methodology and process.
Yeah, it can be anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. I mean, it just depends what you work out with your client.
Okay, so there's Scrum, and then you also mentioned Drive, which is, our company's methodology. But what are some other methodologies out there as far as building software and so forth? To tell us some of the other methods that
Well, I mean, the most traditional one is waterfall that's out there. It's very good. It's a little bit slower process. It puts a lot of emphasis on the requirement gathering phase. So like you see a lot of hybrid methodologies now taking place where they'll take the best of waterfall and the best of agile and combine them together. But agile, you have to have everyone really in sync. Everyone has to hold each other accountable. Waterfall, it's a little bit more rigid, but with any methodology, the main thing is working closely with your client and gathering the proper requirements so that you get it right the first time.
Okay, so I've heard Scrum, I've heard Agile, I've heard Waterfall, and then I heard, Drive, which is our company's methodology. So that is how organizations are building software, and we're in a technology world. Everyone's doing this, everyone's building software. There's software for everything now, and it sounds like you cannot build proper software without having your processes and people, and you need so many key ingredients to building good software.
Yeah, like one of the key people that you need when you're doing Scrum is having a Scrum Master whose main job is to remove impediments so that the development team can do their job, kind of serve as a buffer. They're not a project manager per se. They report to a project manager, but their job is to kind of lead the daily stand-up that the team has during a sprint, which is
Okay, I got to take a time out again here. Stand-up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing that's a meeting. What exactly is that?
Exactly. It is a meeting. It's where everyone in the development team, developers, testers, they gather around. You can stand in a circle. It shouldn't last more than about 15 minutes. Everyone gives a daily update of what they have completed and what they plan on working on, or if they've run into any trouble on the piece that they're working on. And so that gives the Scrum Master a better idea, and they can report back to the project manager, who can relay information to the product owner if there's going to be any delays. One thing about if you're going to do the Scrum Agile methodology is, especially once you've identified your product owners, to set the expectations, because most of the time when you do your first sprint, it probably won't be fully successful because you and the product owner might be new, never worked together, plus the development team that you're working with might have never worked together. So everyone's got to, get a feel for each other. So usually I would say around like your second or most likely your third sprint, you should be in sync by that point, and then, cranking them out left and right with no problem.
Got it. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Naeem. I mean, I know I learned a lot. I hope my audience learned a lot. I mean, that's it. You are a certified Scrum Master. So
yeah, a lot of companies will, depending on who you're working for, they will, pay for that training as well. If you can identify the reasons that it's needed, especially if you're working in the government sector. A lot of government agencies are moving to that. Good place to look through is through Scrum Alliance. They one of the leaders in certifications for Scrum Master, so take a look at them as well.
I mean, you mentioned these federal agencies. We are in Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, the home and land of the federal government. So I guess that's how you got involved, and I guess that is, the key driver in bringing out these Scrum Masters and all these different methodologies for building software. And it's really cool to see the federal government enhancing their software and really adopting the cloud technology. So it's something that I'm glad that we get to be a part of as far as the
it's government. Really good to also, like, especially with agencies that have a lot of legacy systems that are trying to modernize. So you'll see a lot of them implement Scrum for these new next-gen systems that they're building. So it's really good.
Got it. And for the audience out there, legacy systems are just old, antiquated technologies.
That's correct, yeah.
There are a lot of these federal agencies that are running these old legacy systems.
So, I mean, right now you see through many agencies, they're pushing building next-gen systems, which will make it easier on, people who need to access information from the government or who work with the government. So hopefully it'll become a more efficient product, at the government.
That's great. Naeem, thank you so much for educating us on Scrum. I learned a ton today. And before I let you go, I do the I don't cook portion of the vlog. And it's kind of cool that not only are we both technology guys, but we're also food guys. So you have your own food Instagram called _gut on Instagram. So all of you out there, you follow _gut on Instagram to see some great food here in the DMV.
Unfortunately, someone had already taken the gut, so I had to go with _gut. But hopefully, launch a website in the future. So
underscore's kosher by me, all right. The food that you're showing is not kosher, but it's all right by me. So everyone follow _gut on Instagram. But you're in the DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia. You're a food guy. I know this is going to hurt you here, but please recommend to my audience one place in the DMV where you love, one of your favorite spots to eat in the DMV.
Man, one spot. I mean, I could talk for another 20 minutes.
Hey, come on, we don't have the attention span for that. Let's go. Give us a good one.
My current favorite place right now in the DMV that I gotta have is D City Smokehouse on North Capitol in Florida, right on the corner.
Okay,
great barbecue joint.
Barbecue. Wow. What's your favorite food item there?
Ooh. Damn, now you make me stick to one on that too. So
if someone's going there the first time, they got to know what to order. Give it to them. Give it to them, Naeem.
I can't live without their chicken wings. They're the best smoked chicken wings in the entire area, hands down. So there's no competition at all.
Smoked chicken wings at D
City Smokehouse.
D City Smokehouse for the smoked chicken wings. And it's where in DC is it?
Right on the corner of Florida and North Capitol.
There you go. You got everything. You know where it is and you know what to get. So Naeem, thank you so much for coming on Rolfman Tech Tips. We really appreciate it. And we'll definitely have to have you on again, man. Thanks so much. We appreciate it. And this is Rolfman Tech Tips.
Thank you for having me.